So what did you miss at Jubilee today? You missed apples, lots of apples, our celebration of Thanksgiving. And hopefully everybody took apples home when they were done with the service. It was a way of sharing the abundance of the season, the abundance that we experience here in community at Jubilee. We celebrate today Thanksgiving, this weekend, Thanksgiving. For some of us, that means gathering with family and friends. Some of us, that means spending time missing people or wishing that we were with family and friends. Hopefully, it's a time for all of us to spend a little time being grateful, recognizing the things that matter to us, the things that we often take for granted when we're busy. We shared scripture today. We heard in Deuteronomy God's promise that the people would come to a time of abundance and comfort and hope. We heard a psalm that echoed the same feeling. But in Deuteronomy, there was the reminder that even when things are good, we should not forget God. It's easy to remember God when we're struggling because we're asking God for help, for light at the end of the tunnel, for real hope. But then when we get there and things are good, we easily forget. We heard the story from Matthew's Gospel of the parable of the 10 lepers. 10 lepers come to Jesus asking for help, and they are healed. And they go off jubilant. And one comes back to thank Jesus. And of course, as it would happen, that one turns out to be a Samaritan. So yeah, we understand up front that very often when things go well for us and we're healed and things are great, we leave and we forget to be thankful. Yeah, we got that. But we also talked about that story a little more and wondered what's special about that story. Yeah, it's a Samaritan that comes back, so sure, wouldn't you know, the outsider is the one who recognizes the need to be thankful. But when we looked at the story closely, we also realized that there's something else being revealed here. One is that God's agenda is relief from suffering. God's agenda is to reach out to those who are marginalized. This is all represented quite nicely with the lepers. But also that God's agenda is not partisan, because Jews and Samaritans are healed. This isn't just God for us, it's God for them as well, because surely the Samaritan represents the ever-present them in our story. So that God's agenda is relief and connection to the marginalized and breaking down the distinction between us and them. There's an invitation for us to do the same, take on that same mission, that same agenda. But then I noticed the one who came back, it says he came back praising God. He didn't actually come back thanking Jesus. And as Christians, we're very quick to say, yes, but Jesus and God are one, and we go into a whole thing about the Trinity. Absolutely. Except that, of course, this story takes place before the crucifixion and resurrection, before there is any Christianity, before there is any Christology or specific Christian theology. So he comes back with a sense, perhaps, of God's presence through, in, and of Jesus. But perhaps we recognize that he comes back aware of God's presence in the world. It says he praises God. He's aware of God's presence in the world. And so that's what we talked about today. That our thanksgiving is an awareness that we are not alone. That God is present in the world. Present when we are healed, but also present when we're not. So that we can give thanksgiving even in the aftermath of the shooting in Las Vegas, even in the aftermath of violence in our own communities, even as people in Dominica and throughout the islands are still without power, without water. They are still devastated by the storms of the last month. We can still give thanks because we can recognize God's presence. God's presence when we are joyous and God's presence when we are grieving and struggling. True thanksgiving is recognizing God's presence. All of us know people who have seemingly miraculously been healed. They were sick and then they got better, or they were struggling and they won a lottery. And we know people where things have gone well and yet somehow they don't seem to really truthfully be any better off. Yeah, their bills are paid, but they're still miserable. They may be in remission, but they seem to have no joy in life. We know people like that. And that takes us back to that moment when Jesus says to the one leper, ex-leper now, who came back praising God, and he says to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." When we're aware of God's presence, when we know we're not in this alone, when we recognize that there is more going on, we can be made well. We can be made whole, which is a lot more than simply being cured of our disease or having our struggles resolved. And that is real thanksgiving. That's what we shared today. And apples. So even though you weren't with us, go out and get an apple, will you? And bite into it and enjoy it and recognize the abundance that is all around you, all around us, and recognize God's presence. You are not alone. Even if you weren't with us at Jubilee today, we hope you will be soon. And I hope that you always recognize there is cause for thanksgiving. You are not alone. God bless you. I hope to see you soon.